cinnamon rolls may not be as difficult as you think. It's basically an enriched yeast dough that's had eggs and butter and sugar added to it, but it can be the rolling out that's a little bit tricky. Getting that filling right, learning how to slice them evenly, and getting a nice second rise. I'm going to show you a few tricks along the way to help you make this delicious homemade treat. Here we go, friends. My kitchen is a hot mess today because I've been baking up a storm. Hippos and hash browns is in full swing. But let's do these cinnamon rolls, all right? You've got to get a big area to work with because we're going to roll these out to about a 16 by 21 rectangle. I've got a lovely, sweet, enriched yeast dough that you can see here. It's been rising for really a couple of hours. The recipe says an hour, but it was cool in the house today, so it took much longer. Flour your surface really well, and then just turn that out. You can see that it's got a nice yellow color, and that tells you it's got lots of butter and eggs in it. Flour your rolling pin, and this gets rolled out to a big rectangle. You want to know the secret to those cinnamon rolls that you get in the mall or airports or wherever it is you get them? They roll the dough out really thin so that when they get the cinnamon rolls rolled up, they've got a lot of layers in them. We're going to do about a 16 by 21 rectangle, and this is already at 14 here, and 11, 10 that way. So we've got a little bit more to go. As you roll one direction, the other direction gets bigger. I think you know that. This is kind of an approximate, but try to keep it in a rectangle shape as best you can. These are going to get baked in a 9 by 13 pan, and I've got a foil pan that I've just greased. I'm doing these for my neighbor so she can take them to Easter. And let me kind of square this up a little bit. All right, check it out. 15 by 18 and something. Could go even a little bit more. This is not an exact science. It's a yummy science. Okay. You're going to spread this whole dough with 1/3 cup of softened butter. Use unsalted butter and use real butter. Some of your recipes are going to say butter or margarine. Yuck. Why would you do that? A good tool for this is an offset spatula, but this rubber spatula will work okay if you just work it. I'd like my butter to be a little bit softer, but again, it's, you know, we got this weird cold snap for the first day of spring, didn't we? Once you get this all spread, you're going to sprinkle it with a mixture of brown sugar and cinnamon. You'll need a cup of brown sugar and 3 tablespoons of cinnamon. And that is the other secret. One of the other secrets to the mall cinnamon rolls is a lot of cinnamon and a lot of brown sugar. Now, if you want to do a couple of little cheats to this recipe, you can. You can mix up the yeast dough and let it rise overnight in the refrigerator that way, then take it out and shape and bake the rolls the next morning. Or a lot of recipes tell you how to make the dough, shape them, cut the rolls, put it all in your pan, and then put it in the refrigerator overnight. Then the next morning you can let it rise a little bit on the counter and then bake them. We're going to do these fresh today. You can also underbake them a little bit, put them in the freezer or fridge, and then finish them. You'll notice I do not have butter or the cinnamon sugar mixture going all the way to the edge. These do ooze out a little bit, and you do need something to hold on to as you're rolling it up. Okay? So get that spread out. And then you can take your rolling pin and just go over that just a little bit. Sorry about that. Just mash that sugar just a little bit. Now, some of your recipes also say start with the long end and roll up, but you get a lot more layers if you start from the short end. So I'm going to start with the short end here, and it's going to be a little bit unwieldy for me because it's on the side and I'm doing it towards you so you can see. But look, just flip over the first layer and just start rolling. You're never going to learn how to do this if you don't try. And if you let things like this intimidate you from trying, you're missing out. You may not get it perfect the first time. You may not get it perfect the 20th time. It just kind of comes and goes as the weather does. But it is going to be something that'll be deliciously homemade. Okay, just continue rolling these. Let me bring this towards you a little bit so you can see. I have not got the most perfect even roll by any means. But pinch those places together where the dough is not seamed, and that'll keep the filling from falling out or oozing out. On the bottom here, you see how that dough is coming apart? Pinch that together. You get a nice big fat roll, okay? And your 9x13 pan is greased. You don't need to preheat your oven yet because these have still got to rise one more time. But this is what I want to show you, a trick. When you get ready to cut your cinnamon rolls, use a piece of string. I'm going to try to measure these in about half, and I'm going to try to score them beforehand. So I'm going to do half right there. And to get the nice big fat rolls, you can do it like every 2 inches. And you will get a big giant cinnamon roll from that. So let's just score it right there. 2 inches. Now I happen to have a nice serrated knife. It's a sharp, sharp quality bread knife. But this is the trick I want to show you for cutting cinnamon rolls. Can you see it? It's a piece of string. Or you can use dental floss, you know, unflavored. So what you can do is just take your string. I've scored this cinnamon roll. Put it under there. Slide it to your mark where you've scored. And just draw those ends through there. Now, you slap that baby in your pan. Let's do it again. Okay? Put your string under there. Go where you've scored it. And pull together. Is that cool? You can actually, in a 9x13 pan, you can fit 12 cinnamon rolls. And if you don't want to make these so giant, you could get a dozen out of here. Again, you can be more careful when you do yours. I just wanted to get this quickly done to show you. I'm going to promise you these are going to be the best cinnamon rolls you've ever had. Top them with a cream cheese frosting. Okay, do you see all those layers there? That's what makes it like that mall cinnamon roll. Yum, yum. I'm going to continue on with these, cutting them. Then I'll cover them and let them rise for about 30 minutes or so. And then they get baked at 400 for about 15 minutes. See these end pieces? Those are the taster ones. Smash those down. That is going to be a tiny one. That's going to be a mini bun. I mean bun. Okay. Cover those with cling film. And let those rise before you bake them off. Or you can cover them with a kitchen towel. Either way, doesn't matter. Or this is the point at which if you covered these, you could go ahead and put them in the refrigerator and then bake them off in the morning. They'll rise slowly. Some of the cinnamon sometimes oozes out when you do that, but if you get them in there pretty quickly, it helps to keep that from happening. I'm going to let these rise and bake them tonight, and we're going to have them for dessert. Okay, the cinnamon rolls have finally risen fully on their second rise. This is what they need to look like before you bake them. They've been going for about an hour and a half. My kitchen is really cool today, like I said, so it's taken them a little bit longer than normal. While I was waiting on them, I did go ahead and get a bath. That's why it looked like this. But anyway, now you're going to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Then you're going to bake these for about 15 minutes, maybe as much as 20, until they're light golden brown. Don't let them get too brown. Once they come out, you can let them cool down for just a little bit and top them with powdered sugar glaze, or the best thing to use is cream cheese frosting. That's made with just some cream cheese, butter, powdered sugar, and then down with a little bit of milk. I think you can find a good recipe on the internet, and I'll try to post one on the blog for you too. That's my favorite way to have them, warm with the cream cheese frosting. So I'm going to let my oven preheat, and then I'm going to bake these off for about 15 minutes. Show you what they look like when they get done. Yummy. Okay, boys and girls, these are the cinnamon rolls after 20 minutes in the oven. I checked them at 15 minutes and they weren't done. You see in the middle, they look like they're kind of brown, but that's really just the cinnamon on there, and they are a little bit brown, but the edges are still kind of pale. That's what you want. If you let them get brown around the edges, you're going to have crispy cinnamon rolls, and what you really want is soft, sweet, chewy, yummy cinnamon rolls. So this is the doneness you're looking for. I'm going to let those cool, and then I'm going to put the glaze on them, and I'm going to have one. Hope you'll make this recipe. I am going to give you links to a yeast recipe, and let me just tell you the cream cheese frosting recipe that you can make. Okay, you just have to mix these things together. It's 6 tablespoons, or about 1/3 of a cup of softened cream cheese, 1/4 a cup of unsalted butter, and about 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. You also add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract to that to give it a really yummy flavor. And that's going to be your cream cheese frosting that you can glaze these with. You remember your filling was, again, 1/3 a cup of butter, a cup of brown sugar, and 3 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. And just while we're looking at these, let me go ahead and just give you the ingredients for the dough recipe. Okay, you have a cup of milk and 2 eggs at room temperature and 1/3 a cup of unsalted butter. What you're going to have to do is warm that milk up and then cut the butter up, put it in there so it can kind of soften, almost melt. Then you beat the eggs into there. But in your mixer bowl, you're going to put 4.5 cups of flour, 1 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 cup of just regular white sugar, and 2.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast. Okay, you've got all that dry stuff in your mixer bowl, and then add your warm milk, room temp eggs, and that butter in there. Okay, you just dump that all in there, mix it all up, knead it for a minute till it gets nice and smooth, and then you just let it rise in that bowl covered until it gets nice and puffy, like the dough that we started out to work with in the beginning of this. Hope you'll make this. It's time consuming, but it's a yummy homemade treat.